I should mention that most of the things that happen in that movie actually happened to me or my family, right? I'd say probably 80%, like my father was shamed. Stealing coconuts, he was taken to court, he was fined, and so a long time I had to live under the shame of this incident. And I was too young at that time to do anything about it. And the main reason he was fined unjustly was because he couldn't speak English and he didn't realize the mistranslation. So one of the reasons I made this movie is to give my father that sweet, sweet fragrance in terms of his name, which is what the chief says to her at the end of the film. One day, your father's name will be a sweet, sweet fragrance. So I was kind of trying to come to terms with that incident that had emotionally impacted me. My father died when I was 14. I ran away from home, right? So a lot of where I was growing from were things that actually happened to me. I'm the youngest of 11 kids. When I was growing up, I was very ashamed of our house because I thought it was the poorest in the whole island. And as a kid, I remember I'd go to the bus and then I'd pretend to get off the bus and head towards my neighbor's house, which is that kind of concrete, because I thought that would make me look better. I look back and I can't believe I did this. Like, who was I fooling, right? And I also was ashamed of our ugly house in my mind, so I planted this flower garden right in front of the house, thinking that when people pass by on the road, they would be distracted by the beautiful flowers and not see this ugly, thatched hut behind it. So I was really drawing from a lot of the incidences that happened when I was young. I was shamed like that girl by my teacher, who told me that if I didn't shape up, my family would be poor forever. And I remember how upset I was, and I was determined to prove her wrong. But there are various things like that I guess, kind of kept you going or empowered you. A lot of the Rutuman wisdom and proverbs are in the movie, but of course when I translate to English, it's very shortcut, so you don't get it. For example, when the incident where the water comes through the roof, leaking roof, and the girl's mad at, Vicky's mad at her dad, and she says to him, well, if the dad says you must complete what you set out to do. But actually it comes from a very ancient Rutuman proverb which goes like this, which literally translates as, when you're up a tree trying to break a branch with all the fruit hanging on the branch, make sure that you break it. And it's one that's been passed down over the generations, and one that had greatly empowered me at times when I wanted to give up, say, schooling, because I felt that it was asking too much of me. The idea is that if you don't break the branch with all this fruit, and it's just hanging there, the people underneath can't benefit from it, and you're stuck up there, and in other words, you're useless, all right, because you haven't broken that branch. But in translation, it just says you must complete what you set out to do. So for Rutumans, when they hear the Rutuman language, they get an extra, thrill out of it, and it's a deeper resonance. And there's a lot of that is there, which unfortunately in English is lost, because, as I said, I would only have 1 or 2 lines, and I had to translate it into the English language, right, and translate it for meaning rather than a literal translation. So lost in translation, that was lost.